The amount of carbon dioxide gas produced is regulated by the carbon silicate cycle, which is intrinsically linked to the tectonic movements of our planet, which are incidentally lubricated by large bodies of water such as seas and oceans. We're talking here about earthquakes and volcanoes and any other activity which involves the tectonic plates. To put it in a nutshell, the cycle begins with the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere entering water vapor in the clouds, which eventually falls to Earth in the form of precipitation. The rainwater itself is turned to a weak solution of carbonic acid, which gradually starts to erode the carbonate and silicate rocks with which it comes in contact. Subsequently, the direct result of this erosion is the production of calcium, bicarbonate, and silica, which are deposited into natural water bodies such as rivers and oceans by the rain. These minerals are subsequently absorbed into the shells of sea organisms and become calcium carbonate. When these creatures die, their shells descend to the seabed, and it is at the point where tectonic plates crash together that this calcium carbonate enters the molten mantle, where it reacts with other silicate minerals and causes carbon dioxide gas to emerge through volcanic eruptions and other vents. So the carbon silicate cycle, what part does it play in global warming? Well, it's simply this. It acts as a giant blanket around the Earth. What happens is the radiation from the sun reaches the Earth and is absorbed into the ground. You can see it labeled on the PowerPoint diagram as incoming solar radiation. It isn't all absorbed, though. As you can see, much of this incoming radiation fails to reach the surface and is reflected away from the atmosphere instead. This means it is deflected harmlessly out into space, therefore maintaining the radiation in the atmosphere to its optimum level. You will also have noticed a group of arrows pointing in opposite directions. These represent the passage of infrared radiation through the atmosphere. A certain amount of this is trapped by the greenhouse gases in the Earth's atmosphere, as well as being emitted from the surface. In this way, the heat from the sun is effectively harnessed by our planet, rendering our world inhabitable. Now, let's return to our first point about what makes a planet habitable. So far, we've seen that the planet has to be situated in a suitable solar system in the habitable zone. With this criteria fulfilled, it must also have sufficient water or something which equates to it, and a way of perpetuating the production of greenhouse gases in order to trap the heat from the sun. Looking at our own solar system and at our neighboring planets, Venus and Mars, which are also in our zone, we realize that fulfilling the conditions is not that simple. Neither of these have an active tectonic system. Greenhouse gases on Venus have run amok, leaving it unbearably hot. The evidence of past volcanic activity is apparent across its whole surface, but the water, which once most probably existed, has evaporated a long time ago, meaning that the tectonic plates are locked together, lacking the system of lubrication brought about by large bodies of water, such as seas and oceans. Mars, on the other hand, is a frozen planet whose core has cooled and can no longer power the movement of the tectonic plates. It is similar to Venus in the way that it lacks liquid water, although there is speculation that some may exist in the ice caps. But unlike Venus, it has an extremely thin atmosphere, which affords little protection to its surface and leaves it vulnerable to extensive erosion. So we are all alone in this solar system. But how about further afield?
The Health and Education Summer Camp in the county of Cork in Southern Ireland is ideal for young people who'd like to learn new sports and activities. It has a beautiful location near a river and occupies 5 acres. The camp has two types of accommodation, tents and cabins, both of which are modern and comfortable. The cabins are by the river, and the tents are on higher ground, away from the river and next to the washrooms. There are 2 washroom blocks, fully equipped with showers as well as toilets. We also have facilities for cooking here. We provide all the pots, pans and utensils. All cooking is done in the cooking area, which is situated in the centre of the camp. This gives the camp a real social focal point.
Hi, Jane. How are you settling into life at university?
Fine, except I don't really know what there is to do in town. I haven't had time to look around yet. You've been here for a year. Could you give me some ideas?
Of course. There's lots of places for students. Firstly, if you go across the bridge over the river outside the campus and turn left... Oh, no, sorry. That's the garage. Turn right. Then you'll get to the bowling alley, which is really popular at the weekends because it's so close to the campus. On Friday nights, they have a special discount for students.
Oh, that's great. I love bowling.
So, do you like sports, Jane?
Yes, I go running and swimming, and I play badminton.
In that case, there's a running track behind the university campus, and I think they have a badminton court at the sports centre.
Actually, I'm happy just to run in the park.
Well, there's a large park in town too. If you go down the road opposite the bowling alley and take the first right, then you'll get to the park. It's quite big and there's a lake in it. You can take a boat out on it. The university rowing team practice there.
What about places to eat out? Are there any good student hangouts?
Absolutely. There's the Elm Tree Cafe, which is down the road from the post office, in the opposite direction from the river. The cafe is on a fork in the main road, and it's quite an institution round here.
OK, well, I'll have to check it out. I'm looking for a part-time job, so maybe I'll be able to find work there.
You should try. They're always looking for new staff, and they often hire students. Now, have I forgotten any other important places? Oh, yes. You like sport, so I should mention the leisure centre. Don't get it confused with the swimming baths, which are down the road from the supermarket. The leisure centre is opposite. There aren't any swimming baths there, but you can get a student leisure card which will let you into both. So, you see, there is quite a lot to do in this town.
It seems like there is. Well, thanks for all the information, Sophie.
No problem. See you soon.
Today, I'd like to continue from last week's lecture by looking at what helps people successfully integrate into a new culture. Whereas the reasons for migration are nowadays fairly easy to identify and largely related to employment opportunities or political instability, the factors behind being able to adapt to the new culture and create a new life are considerably more complex. Let's start with an overview of the issues as shown on this diagram. Starting on the left of the diagram, there are 2 lists of factors, internal and external. It's important to notice that the internal factors, in other words, those based on an individual's personality, are divided into positive factors, trusting others and acknowledging that people are different, and negative, being afraid and being suspicious of people. You might think that the list of negative factors would include discrimination, but it doesn't because discrimination comes under the larger category of fear. Now, what you should also notice is that the external factors are not labelled in this way. It's much more difficult to know how to measure the effects of external factors and whether they actually are external or not. The influence of family relationships, climate, beliefs and values, and the ability to communicate in the language of the new culture have wide-ranging effects which are difficult to measure and can distort any research. Now focus on the centre of the diagram, and you'll see this phrase, coping strategies. This is important because studies have shown that people who integrate well into a new culture, and that is any culture by the way, are those who have eradicated any negativity and made positive choices and adopted coping strategies such as observing people and taking time to listen and ask questions in order to diminish the effects of culture shock. What we have observed is that people who demonstrate positive coping strategies, such as observing, listening and questioning, end up by understanding the host culture better and integrating quicker and more successfully. However, those who choose to be critical of the differences and therefore react negatively to the host culture are likely to have increased feelings of alienation. This alienation can tail off and become the beginning of acceptance if a person has some positive experiences, but it usually deteriorates quickly into isolation.